You have questions?
What is slashing?
We have answers.
Slashing is like that, you know?
Mm-hmm. And there's a penalty for that?
Yeah. You do that, you go to the box, 2 minutes by yourself, and you feel shame, and then you get free.
This is CBJ in 30.
Anything you folks want to know about the fascinating world of pro hockey, here we go.
Tweet your questions by using the hashtag CBJIN30.
We'd like to remind you folks, keep your questions within the boundaries of good taste.
Here's your host, Bob McElligott.
Oh, it's Friday. It's a Friday edition of CBJ in 30. Welcome once again. Ready to take your questions? Anything that you have to ask? Blue Jackets getting set for their final preseason game tomorrow night at Nationwide Arena when they take on the Nashville Predators. I'm all set here today. I've got my NHL draft mug from the first draft I ever worked. Geared up, ready to go. It's kind of a laid-back Friday, you know what I mean? As I said, the Blue Jackets practicing right now, skating for their game against the Predators tomorrow night. A couple of housekeeping items to take care of right off the bat here. All right, number one. That was actually two number ones. Number one, somebody told me I should add a third jersey to my background here. So I did, but I didn't want to detract from the two great primary logos that we have here. So I turned it backwards and incorporated it. That is not mine. That is not mine. That's my son's. So if I put that on, it would look like a halter top probably. So that just so you know. Okay, maybe not a halter top, but it would definitely look like something that I outgrew at some point in my life. Did you ever have one of those shirts? Ever? Come on, be honest with yourself. Did you ever have one of those shirts? I had one. I remember it distinctly. It was a red tank top. It had a number 1 right on the chest. And I would wear that thing as much as I could in the summertime, as much as I possibly could. And I remember one year my mom said, you got to quit wearing that. And I didn't understand why. Well, usually a good rule of thumb is if your stomach is showing between your waistband and the bottom of the shirt, it's probably time to quit wearing it. So now, and this is what I'm finding out about life. This is what I love about life. Is because history repeats itself. Sometimes that's bad, but in this case, it's good. Because now I have a son that wears tank tops who has already had it said to him, you got to quit wearing that shirt. The time has come and gone. So see, history repeats itself. What happens to you happens in the next generation. That's what I'm finding out in my life. I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but I don't think so. I don't think so. So that's housekeeping item number 1. Number 2, yesterday on this very show, I talked about the season ticket holder event at the Columbus Zoo and Aquarium last night and told you that Jody Shelley and I were going to be hosting the event, come out, meet the Blue Jackets, and all of that good stuff. And I also said that as you walk into the zoo and you go back to the area where the event is going to be held, which is back by the merry-go-round, carousel, that's probably the best way to put it. To me, it's a merry-go-round. It's very simple. I'm a simple guy. Anyway, on the way there, you have to pass the Penguins exhibit. And I said what I would really, really like to see is that Penguin statue with a Blue Jackets jersey on it. And I looked. I walked in last night. And I looked. And when I looked, that Penguin was naked. He was just in all his glory there. Looking normal. What's his name? Pepe? Pepe looked normal there. He did not have anything on. That was so-so. Anyway, so I saw it, and I thought, well, what do you expect? You expect you go on a show, you say something, people are just going to follow your every whim and do whatever you want? No, I don't expect that whatsoever. So we go do the event, and through the course of the night doing the event, and we're on stage, so I look later, and this is a picture that was tweeted right here. I hope this comes through okay. Let's find out. Let's just put it up to the camera. This is from Alex Haig's account. Can you see this thing? How's this? That's coming across terribly. Anyway, that is Pepe wearing a Blue Jackets jersey. It's a very small jersey, but he looks really nice in it. So that So it happened. It happened. Absolutely happened. And then later, and again, this is going to show up terribly, so I'll just apologize. I didn't know how it works. Look, technology is I'm okay with it here, but I don't know how this stuff all shows up when I try to show you. But anyway, I don't know if you can see this one. Can you tell? This looks awful. That's terrible. Anyway, this one has an old school Blue Jackets original jersey on it. And it's a little bit longer. It makes it look like Pepe's wearing a dress. So that's two. We went new age, we went old school on Pepe last night at the zoo. So thank you. I got a charge out of that. When I saw that, I was like, I can't believe somebody actually did that. But I'm so happy that they actually did that. It was great. Here is my story about the Penguins exhibit, though. When I first walked in, there was a couple, and they had a little girl there, and I don't know, she probably hasn't walked for very long in her life, and she was kind of trailing behind, and her dad was standing with a stroller, and I could put myself in this place, right? The dad's with the stroller way ahead. The mom's going, come on this way, come on. And so the Penguin exhibit was on the left, and there was that statue of the Komodo dragons on the right. So the little girl, and I'm walking up on this the whole time. I'm just observing this entire scene unfolding in front of me. And I'm walking toward her, and the mom's going, come on, come this way, come this way. And the girl looks toward the Penguin and promptly turns to her right and starts running over, pointing at the Komodo dragon. And it was just funny. I laughed, and when you have kids and you remember when they were like that, there are some days you say, I wish they were still like that, because, they don't ever listen, but at least it's cute when they're that age. But anyway, so I walked past, and when I went past her dad, I said, well, at least she was smart enough to stay away from the Penguins. So that's what I saw going into the place. And then, of course, I got those tweets later. But if you were at the zoo event last night, it was great. Thanks for coming out. The weather couldn't have been more perfect. 80 degrees on a Thursday night in October. It was fantastic. It was awesome. And you guys were awesome in the crowd last night. The players were great. That is one of my favorite events of the year. And it's my favorite because the players play along and they have fun, and you get to see them a little bit outside of their element. And that, I don't think that that's a comforting thing for them, all in all, because when they are at their best is when they're on the ice and somebody's trying to knock them out and they're trying to get a puck and put it in the back of the net. That's their element. That's where they're most comfortable. And when you're talking to them, they're most comfortable talking about systems. Jody Shelley put this well last night afterwards. He goes, yeah, and they're talking about systems and adjustments they have to make. They're really comfortable. And then you get them in that kind of a setting where you're asking them crazy stuff and just trying to have fun with them. But they're great. They were great. I thought they were really fun last night. I also liked when we had to ask them the serious questions. I liked their answers on the serious questions leading up to the season, and how excited they are and what they expect and this and that. And we talked to Brandon Dubinsky, Nick Foligno, and Scott Hartnell were some guys we talked to directly about that last night. They were great. And then played a little game show there, and it was fun. It was fun. It was an all-around fun night. I love doing that event. And, I wouldn't miss that. It's so much fun. So if you were there last night, I hope you enjoyed it. I got to meet a lot of you last night. Who did I want to mention today? Micah, yeah. Who they said Jody was calling him Bob because he's a goaltender on his Special Olympic team. So he's got to stop all the shots. And I think he starts playing this weekend. So I told him I want a progress report. I want a status report of what's going on, because it's important. It is. It's absolutely important. And that was the whole mindset of the whole thing last night. How important what's going on here is to everybody. It was a sense of community. It was a sense of, hockey fans, Blue Jackets fans, people that are just excited about something new and different that's an upcoming here with this team and bonding with its community. So, and I couldn't help but think of how different it was just a year ago from that very event. When you had, first of all, Jody was on stage with me last year, just transforming from being a player into a broadcaster. So he was great last night. He was good last year, but he was great last night. Just, assuming the role and having fun and getting stuff out of the players, that was fun. But even with the players, even Jack Johnson that's been here for a couple of years now, just to to watch him, how he has become a leader, not only in the room, but how he's become a leader in the community and how he's recognized by fans that look at this team. Brandon Dubinsky in the same vein, James Wisniewski, just everybody comfortable with one another on the stage. Unlike a year or two ago where guys were looking around and almost saying, who's the guy sitting 3 chairs down? So that's how quickly it changes. And that's, this is a true family of guys that were sitting on the stage last night. So that was fun. I had a great time at that. And like I said, if you were there, thanks for coming out, because you guys made it a lot of fun. A lot of fun. I love the audience participation part of it as well. So, and you know what? The other thing I like, actually what I like the most about that event, the thing I like the most, just personally from my standpoint, is that's as close as I will probably ever get to hosting a game show in my life. And if there's a bucket list for me of things that I would like to do, I would love to host a game show. I always thought that was the greatest thing in the world. Who didn't want to be Bob Barker, right? Well, maybe didn't want to have people running up on stage and about knocking you over because they were happy that they just won a new toaster. But anyway, I just always thought that was fun. Go back to my favorite game show of all time, Match Game, Gene Rayburn. And I appreciate it more now than I ever did as a kid. I liked it as a kid, but I didn't get all the jokes as a kid. I love going back and watching it on Game Show Network right now. Match Game 76. What was that, 3 years ago? That's what it feels like sometimes, right? But it was so funny. They just came across like they were having so much fun. So, I've always, if I ever got a chance to host a game show, I'd be there, right there. Boom, done. Well, I shouldn't say that. Might depend on what the game was and how viable it was going to be and whether or not it was going to get canceled. Anyway, other than that, I have fun. And that's why I really like that event. I love that. I love that part of it because you get to see the players' personality a little bit. And I get to do that. And I get to work with Jody in doing that. And it was a lot of fun. So we shall move on to other things and see what we got here today. I do have to apologize, too, to Luke, the golf cart driver. I said I would ask for Luke, and I didn't on the way in. 3 golf carts passed me. They passed me, and they took off, and they kept on going through the parking lot. I thought, well, they must be circling around here, so I'll just ask. And it didn't happen. And then when I left, we went out the back, and there were no golf carts. But I would like to thank our VP of Communications, Todd Chirac, for giving Jody and I a lift to the car. But Luke, if you're out there, I'm sorry. My intention was to find you, and it didn't work out that way. So I apologize. I'll publicly apologize because yesterday I said I was going to ask for you. So there's that. I think all my housekeeping items are now cleaned up. 15 minutes into the show, I think I've cleaned up everything I have to clean up. So let's get to your questions, shall we? If you haven't tweeted yours yet, you can do it right now and use the hashtag CBJIN30. Mark has the first question today. And Mark's question is, how many are the Blue Jackets allowed to keep on the roster for opening night? And is there a breakdown of how many of each position is allowed? Not so much. 23 is a number. And then you can break it down how you want to break it down from there. But as we know, 2 are going to be goaltenders. So you've got 21 spots. So here are your choices. 13 forwards, 8 defensemen, 14 forwards, 7 defensemen. That's the way it's going to go. And those are only healthy guys. So let's say that they feel that Ryan Murray's not going to be ready and they want to start him on injured reserve. Maybe that's a bad example. I can give you a better example. Nathan Horton, start him on injured reserve, okay? So he's not going to count against your roster. That's your active roster I'm talking about with the 23. So, so you go from there. Ryan Murray, here's a better example with the Ryan Murray case. Let's say that he might be able to play, might not be able to play. You're not sure. You want to keep a guy's insurance, so maybe you go 13 forwards, 8 defensemen and keep an extra guy around and, have Ryan on your active roster, but maybe he's not. Maybe you really only have 7 guys, not 8 guys. You could do that. So we'll see how it plays out. They have to have that roster in by Tuesday afternoon. So you've got the preseason game tomorrow, the final preseason game tomorrow against Nashville, and then you have the weekend, Sunday and Monday to sort it out. and figure out what you want to do or what you have to do or any deals you might want to make. If there's a guy you think doesn't fit and you're going to try to put him through waivers and you don't think he's going to make it through waivers and you want to see if you can get a deal for him, then you've got Monday and Tuesday essentially, or Monday and Tuesday, Sunday and Monday, part of Tuesday to try to do that and get it all taken care of. So, but the number you're asking to answer your question, Mark, 23, not to answer your question, Mark, that sounded wrong. There needs to be a pause there. To answer your question, Mark, 23 is the number. All right, let's see. Hey, we got another Luke here. Buddy Luke from Australia. Let's see. I love my Blue Jackets, but Nathan Walker likely to make NHL debut this season. Who have you been most excited to see debut? Who have I been most excited? I was pretty excited about watching Ryan Murray debut last year, to be honest with you, because he came with such fanfare at the draft. Because remember, if you go back to that draft, and that was the Pittsburgh draft, right? Yeah, the Pittsburgh draft. That was this draft right here. Sorry, I needed that. If you go back to the Ryan Murray draft, remember the circumstances. The Blue Jackets had finished last in the league, and then they thought they had the number 1 overall pick, and then they lost the lottery to the Edmonton Oilers. Has losing the lottery ever been as big of a win in history as losing that lottery, by the way? Really, think about it. And more than likely, they would have taken Ryan Murray regardless. He was going to go number 1 overall, number 2 overall. He should have still gone number 1 overall. And I've had discussions with people in Edmonton about that, and there is at least one guy that totally disputes that. It says, "Oh, no. The Oilers made the right pick with Yakupov. Absolutely right pick. No. No. Yeah, because they don't need any defense in Edmonton. That defense is no problem whatsoever in Edmonton, right? No problem. That's been one of their problems. The defense, the goaltending, and the fact that they have a whole bunch of the same forwards that haven't meshed the way that you would think that they would mesh. Put it this way. When you look at the teams and the way that they've built through the draft, and I'm talking about teams that have become elite teams and have gone on to win the Stanley Cup. Pittsburgh did that. Chicago did that. Edmonton, for as many first overall picks as they had, you would think would be in that conversation. Now they're not. They're not even close. I was listening to NHL radio yesterday, and they were saying flat out, well, the Oilers aren't going to make the playoffs again. And you have to think that that's true, because who's coming out of the Western Conference? Who made it last year that you can see falling out this year for somebody else to get in? And I'm not saying that somebody's not going to fall out. I'm saying, do you see, number one, do you see that happening? Do you see, of those 8 teams that made it last year, do you see one of them faltering enough not to make it into the playoffs? I could see the same 8 teams, hands down. But here's the other thing I'm saying. If it's not the same 8 teams, if it is 7 of the 8, I don't see the one change being the Edmonton Oilers being in the grouping. I just don't see it. You got to play the games to figure that out, but I just don't see it. So, if you go, I got way off base here. But anyway, if you go back to that draft with Ryan Murray, he came so heralded as such a, scouts were talking about his poise, his intelligence, the way he plays the game, what he brings, even what he brings to a dressing room, character and skill. That's what was being talked about with Ryan Murray. And people were talking about him being another Scott Niedermayer before he ever even got drafted, before he even played. So I was pretty excited about him. And, well, he hasn't disappointed. He's had some injuries, obviously. He missed a season of junior with that shoulder injury, came back strong last year, was a big part of the Blue Jackets, got dinged up before the playoffs, and now is dinged up in this throughout the summer in this camp. I get all that, but he was probably, since I've been here, he's probably the guy I've been most excited to see, prospect-wise, see him play. So, where else shall we go with this? Brad Fox. Easiest question of the day. Easiest. Brad Fox says, you and Rob Mixer are locked in a room. Just makes me shudder. You and Rob Mixer are locked in a room. Oh, left to fight to the death. Who walks out? Brad, really? Is this a serious question? What are you giving me? 2 minutes or 10? I could talk him to death. Simple as that. I could back him into a corner verbally. Be very simple. Easiest question of the day. Thanks, Brad. Rob Mixer's watching this right now with his big glasses on, going, 10 minutes. Susan wants to know, do you think Cody Golubev will make the team? Then she says, I haven't been able to listen. Hopefully not a repeat. Well, it's kind of a repeat, Susan, but that's okay because it's a legitimate question, and everything is changing. Everything's almost in flux day by day. Does Cody Golubev make the team? I think a lot of it depends on Ryan Murray. Where's he at physically? How many defensemen do they want to keep on the roster right out of training camp? I think those are the things that are going to matter. I thought Tim Erickson had a strong game the other night against the Carolina Hurricanes. I thought he had a very good showing for himself. And again, this is a kid that played the first game of the year and got hurt in Carolina, and then he had to sit out and didn't get back until the game before last, whoever that was against. I'm telling you, they all run together. But anyway, we went on the road to Nashville. Went on the road to Nashville, and yes, I remember the Nashville game extremely well. Extremely well. He played in Nashville, then he played against Carolina. He played really well the other night. Really well. And I think he, to me, coming in, he is the favorite. Tim Erickson, I mean. And why is he the favorite? Well, because he just has a little bit more NHL experience, and he has a good offensive upside. Cody Golubev has played well. He's a defense-first minded guy. Tim Erickson is a defenseman that has an offensive upside. Cody Golubev was a draft pick. Tim Erickson was acquired in a trade. How that all plays out, I don't know. But I'm just telling you, from a standpoint of experience, Tim has a little bit more. I thought he played well the other night. It's going to be a neck-and-neck race right down to the wire for those two guys. And again, then that all depends on how many defensemen they keep on the roster. But Cody has, I think he has as good of a chance right now as about anybody of making the roster. He has a chance. He's in the discussion. And I guess really as a player, I was about to say, as a player, that's you just hope you're in the discussion. But after you've been in the organization a couple of years, you hope you're in the discussion and you hope you're on the team. So, but he's there. He's put himself in position to have an opportunity and to possibly get on the team. That I can definitely tell you. All right, let us move on. Tyler, I'm laughing because there's one question here. I got to decide if I'm going to tackle it or not because I'm not a true expert on this. But anyway, let me go with this one first. Tyler Pavelka says, "What can we expect from Hartnell this year? I'm excited to see him play, but I haven't heard much about him in camp." That's because he's a veteran player that's going to make the team, Tyler. And for Todd Richards, he doesn't have to have him play in camp to find out what he's going to bring. He's going to bring tenacity. He's going to bring toughness. He's going to bring scoring. He's going to bring a lot of things to the ice. And Todd knows that. So he's just kind of putting him in to let him get his work in, get his legs acclimated to game speed, and be ready to play. So it's funny because you get locked in on who have you heard a lot about, and you haven't heard a lot about Scott, but that's because Scott's just out there getting himself ready for the season. Now, that being said, I think he's played really well with Artem Anisimov and Marco Dano the last two games. And what I've seen so far from him is what I expect to see. And then next week, it's only 6 days now, right? Yeah, 6 days from now, when we're in Buffalo to take on the Sabres, Scott Hartnell will take his game and go and be ready to go. And he'll play that aggressive style that teams hate to play against. And that's what he's going to bring, and that's what he's going to do. That's what you can expect from him. What you saw as a Philadelphia Flyer, what you saw as a guy that pesters the heck out of everybody, is what you can expect to see from Scott Hartnell this year. So get ready, Tyler. Maybe in camp you've just not heard much, but Scott Hartnell will jump to the forefront. There's no doubt. All right, Kevin Zuckerman, this is the question I was talking about. Fantasy hockey draft for Kevin tonight. Friday night fantasy hockey draft. Do you guys not understand you should do your fantasy hockey draft like on a Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday? Because it gives you an extra night to get together with the boys? Not on a Friday night. Just saying. Just saying. Obviously, maybe that works for you guys. Maybe that's all that worked. But who is a guy, Blue Jackets or other, that I should be targeting? See, this is where I'm terrible at this. Because when I do fantasy stuff, I'm going to sound old by saying this. I don't go get the magazines. I don't really research the heck out of it online. In fact, I prefer the leagues with the auto drafts, although as soon as I get my auto draft and I looked at it, I'm ticked off at the guys that I got. I got really lucky in fantasy baseball last summer when I did it, that I was like, I'm pulling stuff out of the air. I was literally sitting in an Edmonton hotel room doing a search and trying to find some diamonds in the rough and some sleepers. And it worked out. So I am not the guy to ask. And this goes back to the other day when I said that there's a reason I'm a broadcaster and not a GM, because I don't really get into it. But I mean, is it stupid to say you might want to target a Crosby, Datsuk, those kind of guys? I will say this, and he'll probably still go high. Probably will still go high. But what about Ryan Johansson? Where's he going to go in fantasy drafts? Because nobody knows how much time he's going to miss, if any. But where's he going to go? So, hey, if it's going along and guys are shying away from him, why wouldn't you take a guy that scored 33 goals last year? That's my nugget of the day, my fantasy nugget of the day. When you finish last, don't blame it on me. It's not my fault. It's your fault for listening to anything that I would say about it, to be honest with you. Let's see. Dennis Paul, your opinion on Bobby Orr naming Gordie Howe the best player of all time yesterday? Well, I mean, both of those guys are great players. Great players. I think Gretzky might have an issue with that, but again, you start to talk about different eras, and when you're talking about guys that played in the same era, if one guy names another guy, that doesn't surprise me. And they're, so I don't know. That's to me, that goes into the fantasy hockey category where you can debate till the cows come home with people about who the greatest player of all time is or was, and then you'll get, people say, well, Bobby Orr was the best. No, Gordie Howe was the best. Well, Wayne Gretzky was the best. Well, Lemieux could have been the best. Well, it's, all of that stuff. But I tell you, Gordie Howe, look at what he did and how long he played. And, maybe some say, well, he got to playing too long and it became a gimmick there, late in these different teams. But he's a great hockey player. Fantastic. And I would think if I were Gordie Howe and Bobby Orr said I was the greatest of all time, I'd feel pretty like that's a pretty big compliment right there coming from him. What else here before we close out the show today? Wait a minute. Let me check very quickly. Aaron Portzline has tweeted that Todd Richards has a new stick and says after 4 years he broke his this morning. Too much torque on the practice slap shot. That's not normally the way I see coaches breaking their sticks in practice. You know what I mean? I've seen sticks over the glass into the stands. I've seen sticks get smashed on the boards. You don't see many coaches breaking it with a slap shot. So Todd must have really worn that thing down over 4 years to have that happen. League note. What's going on? Oh, the Arizona Coyotes. What's going on here? This team cannot get out of its own way for some reason. And I don't understand that. But that what's his Andrew Barroway? Is that the guy's name? I should have this sitting right here at my fingertips. I don't. He was trying to buy the Islanders. He's a guy that had a deal, so he thought, with Charles Wang to buy the Islanders, and then had the rug pulled out from under him, and Wang sold it to two other guys that are going to take it over in 2 years. And then this guy went and he filed a lawsuit of like $10 million against Charles Wang because he felt that he got screwed on the deal. Well, now Larry Brooks in New York has written that he is going to buy 51% stake in the Arizona Coyotes. And yesterday the Coyotes were saying, no, we're not getting a new majority owner. We have an investor coming. But now it seems like the group that owns the Coyotes might only take 49% and have Barroway have 51%. And when I say this team can't get out of its way, I feel so bad for the people in Arizona, not just the fans, but I've got friends that work for that team, the Coyotes, and I think what everybody, all they want is the knowledge that they're secure with that team being there. And they didn't feel like that for years. And then last year they finally got an owner and, felt a lot more secure. And now if you get another new majority owner in just a year, I don't know. That feeling would probably be a little bit unnerving as an employee. But hopefully, hopefully if he is going to take over this team or however it all works out, hopefully everything stays the same, stays in place. I like going there. I think it's a great setup. I think the arena is great. The hotel's right next to the arena. It's very easy. It's very convenient. There are restaurants, there are shops right there. And I understand why the people there, what their problems with it are, because if you live in Phoenix, to get out to Glendale, it's a nightmare. It's a traffic nightmare. Because the only one that can get across the desert with any kind of speed is Roadrunner. So it takes a long time to get out there. And a lot of people say, well, they should have put it in Scottsdale. That's where everything is going. And it didn't go there. So you're not going to pick up buildings and move them. And the Arizona Cardinals play right next door, but they play, 8 regular season home games a year, and that's only one day a week. But, I like the team. I like the setup, and I like the people there. And I hope that no matter what happens, they just get this thing settled down, and the fans are coming back. And I think it can work there. I don't think it's gotten its fair shake in the last, 7-8 years. It's just been too much turmoil. So whatever happens, I hope that it settles down and they just get it taken care of. And I can say I hope they have a good season now because they're in the West and we're in the East. So that's fine. That all works for me. So that is that for today. That is going to wrap up another edition. It's going to wrap up this week's edition of CBJ in 30. Hey, on Tuesday, I almost forgot to do this. I would have been chastised. I would have been slapped on the wrist for this. Tuesday, that's October 7th. You're going to be at Roosters. Going to do it live from Roosters once again. This will be a different Roosters location. It's going to be at the Roosters in Olentangy. That's coming up on Tuesday. That's October the 7th. Mark it down. Put it on your calendar. Put it in your phone. Have your phone vibrate just so you remember. Talk to you tomorrow.